Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Hi guys, I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and welcome back to another incredible episode. And this episode is coming straight from my heart to yours. What I have been hearing over and over and over again from the incredible women out there leading their teams, literally putting smiles on children's faces on a daily basis, raising their families, giving and serving so many people from such a beautiful heart-centered space is, I've lost my purpose. What is my purpose? This deeper calling, this deeper knowing of there's something greater meant for me. I'm meant for something greater than this. This can't be all there is. This kind of burning question, and it's something we don't talk about. And it's something that really underlies so much of what brings us stress. Is this really what I want? Is this the life I'm meant to lead? And today we're going to talk about living a purposeful life in dentistry. As a dentist, you in your life, how to find out what that is. How do I find my purposeful life? How do I live a purposeful life? And that's what we're unpacking today. So if this is something that has been tugging at your soul, if you've been feeling like, I don't know that this is aligned for me, I don't know where my purpose lies anymore, I thought I once knew and now I feel so confused, welcome home. We're talking today about you. Imagine living a life, in every day, true to your goals, true to your values, true to your dreams, true to your priorities, living a life in your truth. That is how we live a purposeful life. It's that simple. It's that simple. And we come to that life, come to that understanding in many different ways. And it's still possible in dentistry. In fact, sometimes it's through dentistry. Living a life true to who you really are. That is it. And it can look like so many things, but it all comes down to this one beautiful, such a simple algorithm. Living a life true to who you really are. And one of the things that pulls us so far from that in dentistry and really in society at large, but I'm going to speak specifically today about dentistry, is this need for external validation. It is what dentistry is built on. And it is something that when we can identify it, we can start to loosen its grip and come back home to ourselves, even in dentistry, even in the situation you're in right now, or maybe reaching for something beyond it. But recognizing it's this constant need for external validation. So today we're going to unpack what that is, because inherent in seeking external validation, in living your life for external validation, is leaving your truth, leaving the truth of who you are and forgetting who you are, forgetting your path, forgetting your purpose, forgetting what matters to you, abandoning yourself. Why do we care so much about what other people think? We get to a point where I wish I could just stop caring, stop giving to you-know-whats. And we keep hearing these women who get to a certain age and they're like, you know what the best part about being 50 is? You stop caring what other people think, right? We see all these beautiful exclamations from women saying, I finally am living my life in freedom because I just stopped caring. And on the one hand, that's so seductive. And on the other hand, caring is one of the deepest, most beautiful parts of who you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come to this incredible profession of healing and taking people out of pain and giving people a reason to smile. It's because you care so deeply. It wouldn't be why you're leading a team. It wouldn't be why you started a family. So on the one hand, not caring what other people think feels so seductive. And on the other hand, caring is the core of your truth. But why do we care so much what other people think? It makes so much sense. Evolutionarily, we care because it has meant your survival. It's meant giving you a sense of belonging, the longing for connection. The longing for belonging has been a part of our makeup since the beginning of time because it has helped us survive. Think about, back to the cavemen days. If you were alone, you were dead. You were as good as dead. It means that if you ever twisted your ankle, you couldn't find food. You couldn't escape danger. If you, as a woman, were having a baby, you needed protection while you were giving birth. Your child needed protection. We rely on one another. We need that support, that community. We share, we support, we hold, we heal. We each have gifts that we bring, and we rely on one another. So that entrenched need for belonging is so ingrained in us. So just honor that for a moment, that part of you that really wants to be liked, that really wants approval, that really wants to fit in and feel belonging. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of women who say, I've just never felt like anyone really got me. I never really belonged anywhere. And it really speaks to this core human need, the need for belonging and approval. It's deep. And it's beautiful, and it's meant your survival. And if we're not aware, the same need for belonging can become toxic, especially when we use external validation as a way to abandon who we truly are, when we leave the truth of who we are. If you're actually feeling a deep need to live a life of purpose, a purposeful life, a purpose-driven life, if you feel this desire, this pull, like I just want to have meaning for my actions, I want this to have some kind of purpose, greater purpose beyond me, at the core is your truth. And if you're constantly seeking to fulfill other people's expectations, you're leaving that truth. You're abandoning the core of who you are. But when you start to lose sight of who you really are, then those connections, those external nods of approval feel completely unsatisfying because what you're actually receiving is approval for someone you're not being. Bear with me. Constantly shape-shifting yourself and leaving yourself, leaving your desires, leaving your needs, leaving your values, constantly pushing yourself to achieve other people's approval, to meet someone else's expectations, you're leaving and forgetting who you are and what matters most to you. And remember what I said, living a life of purpose, a purposeful driven life means honoring your personal values, your priorities, your goals, your dreams, your truth. But if we're constantly escaping those, we forget who we are. Searching for external validation becomes actually self-defeating. It's actually a never-ending loop because the desire for connection will always elude you because the connection you're creating is to someone you're not. Okay, how are we doing this in dentistry? Well, let's just look at all the places that we seek external validation in dentistry. Number one, from our patients. And that really is the biggest one, right? Tell me that I'm doing a good job. Tell me that you appreciate. Whether it's even with their money, right? Or just their words. Sometimes we just seek approval or validation, external validation from other people's words. Just a thank you goes a long way. How many women have I heard say to me, with patients that come in every day and they just say, I hate being here. I don't want to be here. It's so wounding. And what that's speaking to is the need for external approval. When we know it has absolutely nothing to do with us, those words that they're using. When they're saying, I hate being here, they hate being in pain. They hate needing to be here. They hate that they let themselves get to this point. They hate the shame that they're feeling. They're not hating you, but we hear that in their words. In the Google reviews, the low Google reviews, we look for the external validation in a place that is not true to who we are. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the experience that that person is having in their lives beyond you. Their expectations have nothing to do with you. And yet that's where we put one of our greatest values is in the words that our patients give back to us. Or let's even look at their actions, even if they're not saying anything. If they're not showing up to appointments on time, or they're not brushing their teeth, or they're not flossing, or they're not wearing their retainers, we take that so personally as a sense of not being validated. You don't take my words seriously. You don't care about what I say. You don't have respect for me. Once again, seeking external validation from a source that has very rarely has the ability to give it to you. They're living in their own worlds. They have their own stresses happening. Whether or not they show up for their appointments sometimes has absolutely nothing to do with you. 99% of the time has nothing to do with you. It is not a validation of your worth. It is not. We seek it from our team. Right? So many people feel so frustrated and disillusioned when there's a team member who gives her 2 weeks notice. I saw this just the other day in one of the Facebook groups. Sweet, lovely dentist who just has poured her heart into her practice. She has poured her heart into supporting her team, really gone above and beyond. And now one of the women just gave her 2-week notice. In this situation, the dentist felt like she didn't care. She didn't even notice all the extra effort this dentist put in, all the heart, all the time she went out of her way for her. And it's just not being reciprocated. Once again, that external validation that we're seeking from a source that has nothing to do with you. And all those actions that beautiful dentist was taking to try to gain her approval, gain her assistance, sense of belonging, connection, love, feels so empty because she was actually abandoning herself and her needs. And we start to feel resentment. We start to feel angry, hurt, abandoned, even with as little as just needing your team members' gratitude or how much effort they're putting in when you're putting in so much effort. Let's talk about another place where we look for external validation, and that is in our bank accounts. Now we're not just talking about your belonging, but evaluating and assessing your sense of worth, your sense of value. We look at numbers, arbitrary numbers on a screen to determine how valued we are, not just by ourselves, but by society. And remember the definition that I gave you about living a purpose-driven life? It's true to your values. And inherent in that is valuing yourself. How can we be true to our values if we don't even value the person creating those values? Valuing ourselves enough to honor our values. But if the bank account is what's determining our value, we become further and further distanced from what really is important to us. We get distorted. It's like putting on a murky pair of goggles. We lose sight of who we are and what matters most to us, and we start self-abandoning again, especially when this sense of value is placed on an arbitrary number in the account. And I know all the mamas out there know what it feels like to look for external validation from your kids. What 3-year-old can give you that validation unless you're seeking it in their words or in their eyes? What 17-year-old can give you your validation for all the incredible love and care and worth that you are to them, raising this human being, giving them life? How could we possibly expect a 17-year-old to understand that? And yet we put so much weight on that external validation. Or talk about your parents or your friends or your colleagues, all those sources that we go to for a sense of belonging, from how other people perceive us, how other people's opinions and expectations of us. It goes so far beyond the people in our own environment. We start judging ourselves in our own bodies. What does society expect of me and my body, of my home, of the way I raise my children, of my profession? We start looking for external validation from society. And in any interaction with people, anytime we have an interaction with events, anytime, that gives us a sense of how well we're doing, of whether or not we belong, we are immediately abandoning and leaving the truth of ourselves. We leave our truth. And so interesting, because when we start to see that, when we get a sense of, I don't really belong here, or look at how many patients are not showing up, or look at how many of my team members are leaving me and not staying around. I must not be good enough. I must not be doing a good enough job, or maybe there's something inherently wrong with me. We start to question ourselves. And when we do, what happens? We start to overcompensate. We overgive. We overwork. Let me give her her money back. Let me give her a raise, even though she hasn't been performing to that extent, just because I'm afraid she's going to leave. Let me say yes to my friend because I'm so afraid I'm going to lose her friendship. Let me say yes when I'm exhausted at the end of the day to my kids, even though my body needs rest. We overgive, and when we do, we abandon ourselves even further because we're not, you heard it, living a purposeful, driven life, because we're not paying attention to our needs, to our values. We start losing sight of them with those murky goggles. Or, so we do one of two things. We either overcompensate, or, second thing, we shrink. We hide. We suppress. We don't speak up when something is bothering us. We don't give ourselves permission to feel feelings when we've been hurt, or when we're angry, or when we're sad. We don't take action on our dreams. There's this beautiful dream burning inside of you that's been wanting to do something for so long, and you think, no, I'm not going to do it because it will look silly, or I won't really get approval. What would they say if a dentist did that? What would they say if I did that? And both of those, overgiving and self-suppression, are self-defeating because they'll never feel fulfilling. And they'll never establish a true sense of connection or belonging because it wasn't the real you showing up who was getting the connection. When you were overgiving from a place of feeling like you weren't good enough and you had to compensate for something, that wasn't you that your friend is connecting to. You were showing up as someone else. When you were overgiving, giving your whole team huge bonuses and raises because you were afraid they were going to leave, that wasn't the real you. That's not where your values are. So of course that connection feels unsatisfying and fragile because it wasn't you that was gaining connection. It was an image of you that you were trying to portray in an attempt for belonging. Here's the truth. You are enough. You always have been. You are doing an incredible, incredible job. Every part of your life has led you to this moment. Everything you have done up until this moment has brought you here to this clarity, to this awareness of, oh my gosh, I need to be true to me. So we don't need to shame a damn thing. All of what you've been doing has been a learning, and now you're here. And now you get to start practicing saying yes to you, even in dentistry, and recognizing every time you self-abandon, every time you reach for external validation, being aware. Awareness is the greatest gift. I know it feels so uncomfortable to recognize, oh my gosh, there's my people pleasing again. It's okay. Let it just be an indicator light on the dashboard saying, surprise, you're doing it again. You're leaving your truth. What a gift it is to have that, so we can remember, wow, I think I actually want to say no to this. I think I actually want to say no to when I read a 1-star Google review and think it has any reflection on my worth. I think I'm going to question that thought because external validation is not going to give me that sense of belonging. The truth of receiving belonging, the way you feel like you belong, is by practicing feeling you belong to yourself. That is it. because no one knows you the way you know yourself. And each one of these little examples is a moment to remember the truth of who you are. You are a miracle. You are a miracle. Look back over your life for a moment and remember every struggle you came through. The fact that you are sitting here listening to this, walking right now, whatever you're doing, listening to this, is a miracle that you are here. The fact that you are taking people out of pain is miraculous, the gift of that. If you're a business leader, the fact that you are giving other women a chance to feed their families, it's miraculous. It's the greatest gift. You are so precious. The heart that you have, the desire you have, the dreams that you have, they are so brilliant and beautiful. Of course you belong. You belong here on earth. You belong because of the gift you have and because of the beautiful dreams that you hold and because of the love in your heart. And the first place you get to realize that is within yourself. Because there will be no relationship that feels fulfilling, no connection that feels fulfilling until you come home to you. And let it be okay if that feels very far away right now. I've been there myself when I thought, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I want. My values, I've been saying I have great high values. I don't even know what they are. My priorities, I don't know. I'm not living them right now. I know I'm abandoning my body. I'm abandoning my health. I'm abandoning my quality time with the people I want most. I know I'm not showing up for my values, but what are my values? How do I live a purposeful, driven life if I'm not even clear? And if you're having that awareness, I honor you. Let this be a moment of wisdom, not a moment of fear, because now's when you get to choose differently. All of those other places that you have been putting your sense of self-worth, all of the external indicators of you being good enough, every time you catch yourself reaching for them, let that be a moment when you come back home to you. Wow, I can't believe I just thought that number on the scale had anything to do with my value. I can't believe that number in my bank account had anything to do with the miracle that I am. Is that crazy that we do that? Isn't it so insane? Would you ever wish that for your daughter or your niece or your mother? Would you ever wish for them to place their sense of self-worth on anything or anyone outside of them who could never have known, who could never have lived this life in their shoes? No. So the first place you get to come home to is yourself. I'm going to offer you this practice today. Every day before you start your day, put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and just remind yourself, Tarryn, you are so loved. You are so worthy. You are doing a great job. Just that. When you're driving to work in the morning, Tarryn, you are so loved. You are so worthy. You are doing such a great job. Reinforcing and reminding yourself of the truth, giving yourself the validation because nobody else knows. Only you do. And every day gets to be a day that you remind yourself of that truth. Guys, we get inundated with the opposite. We get inundated with these messages that tell us we're not good enough, but you get to choose whether or not to believe them. And it's okay if you've believed them up until now. It's totally okay. And it's totally okay if your thoughts say, but really, I've been taught my whole life to believe that. All through dentistry, I've been taught it's the reviews of our patients, it's the feedback from our team members that matters the most. And I'm telling you what matters so much more is you loving you. It is the source of your belonging, and you always belong. Remember, when you feel good, now hear these words. When you feel good about yourself, that is when you do incredible things in this world. That is when you live a purposeful, driven life. And you are so worthy of it. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the business of happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.